We're Laboratory B. We're a civic hackerspace and makerspace here in downtown Burlington on Pine Street. We're located on the second floor of the soda plant, and our big interest as an organization is, as a nonprofit, we're interested in words. Apologies. We're interested in physical and digital security, and our big pathways to that include a lot of community enrichment and engagement. We're an educational space, a safe space, and an inclusive space with the intention of reaching out into our community and giving people access to technology, access to the kind of skills to make it so that technology is less of a black box. For me personally, it's a culture that as soon as I encountered, I felt like I was part of that community, and that this was a space that I wanted to grow with. And I actually moved out from New Jersey partially with the lab in mind. I came to visit just kind of briefly, and then changed over from, oh, I'm just here to visit my brother, to this is a place where I need to be. And Laboratory B was a really big part of that, and continues to be, actually. As a space, we do a lot of different independent projects. We're very membership driven, and we are lovingly considered sort of a community space to foster a lot of nerdy talents and interests. We also do a lot of things related to in the context of safe spaces. We're interested in gender demystification, ensuring that people have access to resources and information not specific or not without the barriers that a lot of society places on us, related to things like gender expression, related to things like race, creed, sexual orientation, etc., romantic orientation. These are various things that here at the lab we do our best not only to cultivate a space where people are welcome, but where people can be educated about these things. And it's a great community to be a part of because of its inclusiveness and the capacity for reaching out, our capacity to reach out into the greater community of Burlington as a whole because of kind of the mentality of Burlington. Do you want to speak more about that concept?
Yes, and that's one reason why I've not lived here fully for about 15 years, but most of the 15 years I've lived in Vermont has been in the general Burlington area, and I always find myself coming back to this town, and that's largely because of the wonderful fiber network we have in this town. And like, it's not just technology that draws me to Burlington itself, it's also the technology we've built into the ground. And part of what got me involved in the lab was a project particularly involved with the Burlington Telecom network called the Civic Cloud, and that's how I was originally introduced. And I think it was around a similar time. I think maybe one member here has been here longer than I have. So at this point, I've started to be here a while, but it's definitely, I reflect off of what Nirav said, is that it's a community that I felt accepted to and accepted with, and that spoke my language, that spoke technology in its many different facets, and that's always something I've searched for in life and found hard to find, honestly, in my younger years. And it is definitely refreshing to have a community that's not only very technically capable, but also has a huge heart.
So one of the events that we run very regularly and that we're proud to be a part of is the Champlain Maker Fair, as well as the Rutland Maker Fairs. And both of these events are meant for the purpose of interacting with our community, giving them access to the kind of things that we've built here, and give them tools so that they can keep building with us. And so as a part of the Maker movement, Laboratory B runs soldering workshops at every Maker Fair in the state of Vermont that we have access to. And we do this largely through donations, both from the community and from organizations in the area. And we teach a variety of different beginner skills so that people have access to electronics. As I was saying earlier, it's not the idea of technology being a black box, but where it's a bit more approachable. Knowing and understanding that the things that you're using are simply comprised of components that you can interface with, that you can learn to build and repair. And we actually run a variety of events associated with that too here in the space. And so for the Maker Fairs, we have actually increased our presence there. We run both soldering workshops to teach people of all ages how to solder, how to interface with electrical devices. And we just started a robotics league. And these entail basically building very do-it-yourself robots. This is Fluffy the Penguin, one of our robots that we present at the fairs. What this robot is capable of is it's, of course, a hexapod that has been modified. These were originally dart-shooting robots that, you could purchase as toys. We've upgraded them in a variety of different ways. We've added 2 high-powered lasers, one strong enough to ignite black balloons and to ignite flash paper, and a naming laser, as well as first-person perspective cameras. And so the idea for these games, actually, is that we can have people pilot the robots to compete in blowing up balloons or igniting flash paper, as well as playing laser tag. We've actually recently added a couple of features so that if they turn and face one another, they can have little duels. And we also have a variety of different things that we build with these, but all of it is very much do-it-yourself. Me personally, I co-founded this subcommittee, actually, and I have no experience with robotics prior to this. It was definitely me learning the process as I was going. My background is in neuroscience, and so I was always very interested in the idea of robotics and the potential for that as going forward. But this was actually my first foray into that. And it was a great experience because I think it is something that's very approachable. It was something that came together quite nicely, actually, over the course of 2 years. And it's something that I think is good for introducing to children the idea that robotics are accessible, that they are not something that are so out of board with what they themselves are capable of. Did you want to add anything into that? Oh yeah, please do.
Another thing that I really liked about the Robot Leagues in itself is that since it is community driven within ourselves, and I joined when we were at the end of the making and getting ready for the Maker Faire that happened a few months ago now, September. And that was kind of what drew me into the lab and what made me want to become a member. But it is nice to see that we have different levels of technical knowledges and skill, and that all of us can get together and work on the robots. And there's kind of that air of inclusivity, right? Like, someone who knows nothing about robots can come in, chip in, or at least talk about and like bring in ideas, or at least take in and learn other things from the fellow teammates. And it's been nice, and I hope that the next Robot League that we're starting up again will be even better, and we can sit down and make improvements, or at least learn new things for the next Maker Fairs and such.
Well, we're largely into just keeping our idea of what hacking means open. It's not just using technology and computers on a command line shell and doing the traditional tappity-tap hacker thing, if you will. It can be anything that really makes something do something it wasn't designed to do, or exceed its design parameters. It's messing with things, being inventive with things. It's even sometimes maybe even having art included with technology. So we teach soldering workshops to help show children and young adults and even old people. We've had I think a retired senior citizen. I think I'm not sure if that's correct, this gentleman's age, but he was definitely an older gentleman who wanted to learn soldering, and I think had never done it in his life. Was compelled by our workstation and the kits we had available, and we decided to. Of course, we decided to work with him and teach him how to solder. Additionally, I think you can see, I think it was Doug who created this.
Yes.
This is actually a 2-player capable game that was soldered together of Snake. If you remember the Snake game where it has to avoid eating its own tail, or actually in this case, it has to avoid running into the opponent's snake in 3 dimensions, an LED. And it's,
in addition to yourself also.
Oh, in addition to yourself also. It is a very interesting game to see operational, and one of the coolest things I saw as a new lab member that drew me into the group. And while we're interested in doing traditional hacker types of activities and maintaining that as a norm within our community, it's definitely nothing we want to limit ourselves to. And we're keen on teaching digital literacy in all of its forms, and literacy, and even things like, I believe, chemistry. We have a PhD in chemistry in our lab. We have people who have a history in neuroscience in our lab. It's the people that find interest in the various things we do always amazes me year after year.
Sure. Starting, I guess, with the idea of not only just doing soldering workshops to help introduce people to the idea that their electronics are accessible, we also run an event that is much more directly geared towards that. It's called Electronics and Exploration Night, and our members come together to ensure that members of the community can come in, bring something that they have that they would otherwise treat as e-waste, something they were going to throw out, and come in, understand what happened to it, understand whether or not it is something that can be repaired, and perhaps even use the tools here to make sure that that comes back to life. And so we've had people come in with broken screens for phones, we've had people come in fixing like those electric bug zappers, we've had a variety of different kinds of RC cars and different projects that people have brought in with the with the intention of trying to understand how it went wrong, and ensuring that if the tools are available, finding a way to bring it back. And it's, I think, actually a fairly meaningful movement to try to reduce the amount of e-waste we create as a society. And this is an opportunity to do that and bring back the functionality of that which you've, had broken or gone to disrepair or poor maintenance, etc. And in addition to that, we always have open hours on Thursdays from 7 to 9. And it's another opportunity for members of the community to come in and join us in the space, work on projects with us, or learn whatever they're interested in. And we always try to make sure that the environment is welcoming to people of all kinds and colors, of course, and ensure that there's a variety of different activities for people to encounter. We have everything from, video game setup, we have card game setup, we have occasionally food and drink, but very often we always have projects that we're working on available in the space for people to interact with and explore. And that's one thing that was really important to us, that we ensure that the space is somewhere where people can join us as members of our community and the community at large. To that end, Laboratory B is also very much interested in the idea of kind of the issues in technology and the tech community as a whole. And I think inclusive of that, and not exclusive to technology actually, is the idea of breaking down gender barriers. And to that goal, we have an event called Somethings Events, which are intentionally vaguely named. They're meant for gender demystification, and they include a variety of different activities. Some of them are focused on things that are often traditionally treated as more feminine activities, or treated as more masculine activities, or for some reason just seem to show a strong gender delineation, just like the members of that community tend to be of one or the other. And we offer a safe space where people can encounter these things without the limitation of those gender barriers. So we've run them in the past with things like, I've taught ones on juggling, we've had Magic the Gathering very regularly, which for some reason shows a very strong male population for unknown reasons. We have actually a variety of different card games that we've taught here. We've taught, we've introduced people to nail polish, yarn arts, crochet and knitting. I don't believe so. And actually, is there anything I've missed in that category?
Good question. We even did friendship bracelets.
We even did friendship bracelets as a category for that. Yeah.
And watch some Adventure Time.
Yeah.
I think the point of those Somethings events is that anybody should be feeling like they can participate in it. We try and make our events as accessible, also from a financial standpoint. So, there's sometimes a cost barrier to especially beginners taking part in tech, and so being able to approach the space and being able to do a project at cost or at or in some way that isn't going to limit you is really important to us as well. So that's part of hacking, right? Is bootstrapping things that are really inexpensive. And for example, we had a member teaching screen printing, and that's generally a really expensive and involved procedure. But our member was able to find a really great and inexpensive way to be able to do that. So we've taught that kind of bootstrapped screen printing, and yeah, we've made buttons, and
Oh, of course. Yes.
so now we've got our name tag buttons. And I think really one of the best hallmarks of Somethings though is the Sunday magic nights, because that is something that if you've ever been in a crew where you're kind of worried you're scared to learn because somebody might actually try and Yeah, it's a less when it's not necessarily a place you can feel comfortable messing up. There's less learning, so that's one of the things that Alice is our awesome host on.
Yeah, and I can elaborate on that too. The Sunday Magic, or the Sunday Somethings, which have been regularly for the past 3 months or 4 months now. It's been every third Sunday. We host Magic. It is for mostly femme-oriented folk, and it's nice because when you encounter Magic events or just even casual Magic nights, it is almost male-dominated to the point where it's a bit suffocating for the people who like to play either more casually or are new, because there's kind of that the pretentiousness of oh, you know, of course you're not good at this, you know, you're a girl or whatever, right? So I've had a lot of really good and positive feedback from the people who come there. They're, you know, very wonderful individuals. They're like, yes, this is wonderful because I feel really comfortable coming here, and it's been nice. It definitely has been something that I've been proud to be a part of, and of course it'll continue until there isn't any interest anymore. But it's been wonderful. You?
Want to talk about culture nights?
Oh, yeah, I guess. So another event that we've started relatively recently. I mean, we've always had informal, like, oh, let's screen this cult classic at the lab, and people come in. But we're trying to make it into a little bit more of an event where, you know, we're showing up. We're not just watching these old classics and these sometimes that put people or nerds or hackers into a very stereotypical light, or documentaries that talk about technology in our lives, and we're going in and we're kind of unpacking that, and we're talking about it, and, you know, talking about culture and swapping cultures would not be quite complete without actually literally swapping some cultures. So we're also including a bit of a food experimentation aspect of that, so people can bring their yogurt, their kombucha, their home cultured items, and, you know, food and drink as well, just to kind of spread the knowledge and spread the love. So, and it relates a bit to if you've heard of Full Barrel, co-op and tap room, that's a cooperative brewery that kind of started within a lot of the community in the lab. We're a place where ideas flow free. So we've actually got a few things that have come out of these ideas. I think a lot of us have side projects that have somehow come from really exciting discussion at the lab. Just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, and then just running with it.